to the entertainment Talking Sports.
Ooh, what is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And of course, the New York Giants play the New York Jets this weekend is what is being called the toilet bowl. Two of the worst teams in football vying for who will get the better draft position. The Giants come in at 2-7. The Jets have one win to their name. So once again, these two teams will be picking at the beginning of the draft for the third straight year. Last year, the New York Giants picked 6. The New York Jets picked 3. But rather than preview the game, I mean in a meaningless game other than for pride, and I'll be at the game and I'll be rooting my ass off for the Giants, what I thought I would do was go back and look at the prior history, and hopefully the New York Giants can learn from the mistakes that the New York Jets have made with their cap space and with their quarterback. And I don't even think the biggest diehard Jet fan, the biggest Jet cheerleader, would argue with my points. Going back to 2018, the New York Giants had the highest pick since when they drafted Lawrence Taylor, when the Giants were picking 2nd overall. And going into the draft, everybody said it was the best quarterback draft since the 2004 draft class when the Giants had selected Eli Manning. And with Eli Manning getting up there in age, a lot of Giants fans, probably at least half, if not the majority, thought that the New York Giants should select a quarterback with the 2nd overall selection. After all, you had big names at the top, such as Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Allen. Darnold was probably the most highly touted prospect coming out of college since Andrew Luck leading into his last season in college. Then he regressed a little bit with the turnovers, but people still thought his ceiling was off the charts, and they thought the Giants should absolutely take him at 2. And when the Browns passed on him at 1, a lot of Giants fans thought for sure Darnold would be wearing a New York Giants uniform. I was in favor of taking this man, Saquon Barkley. I loved Barkley. I thought he was a generational talent, but it had more to do with the current state of events with the New York Giants, with their foundation, and less to do with passing on the quarterback, because I actually like Darnold, and I think with the right support system, he could be a very successful quarterback. But the New York Giants at that point had no support system, and they were not going to have one anytime fast, because like we saw in last year's offseason, the Giants had very little cap space. This year, they will have some. The Jets, however, did have cap space, so I understood the Darnold selection. The Jets traded up from 6th. They gave up 3 second-round picks to move up and get Darnold. Now, Darnold, like most rookies, struggled. He showed some signs of glimpses, specifically in the last 4 games of last season, and he gave the Jets fans hope. And then the Jets had the 2nd most cap space in all of football. Now, a lot of people think that teams are just built around the quarterback. That's how you win football games. I have never had that mindset. I think the surrounding parts are what make a quarterback successful. Yes, obviously the better the quarterback, the better he will perform. But a quarterback is only as good as his offensive line. And neither the New York Giants or the New York Jets had an offensive line when they brought the quarterbacks in. The Giants, of course, selected Daniel Jones in this year's draft, 6th overall. Now, the Giants, in that same 2018 draft, tried to improve the foundation even more by taking Will Hernandez. So they were giving their future quarterback a great weapon in the running game and improving the offensive line by getting Hernandez, and they did just that. Hernandez ranks near the top of the league in pass protection this year. Giants also traded for Kevin Zeitler, a guy who's played pretty well for the Giants. The problem is, outside of that, the offensive line has been abysmal. Nate Solder's not good. Mike Remmers is not that good. He's been getting burnt like a crisp the last few games. And Jalapio's not getting it done at the center position. So the Giants definitely need to improve that offensive line. Now, the Giants are going to be in a very similar situation to where the Jets were. After Darnold's rookie year, now this is going to be after Jones's rookie year, the Jets had $100 million in cap space. But where the Jets made their mistake, they did not focus on the areas that they should have. They went in and they brought in Le'Veon Bell, who's averaging 3 yards a carry because he's got nobody to run behind. The offensive line there is awful. They did not improve it. They brought in an aged Khalil who's doing awful, but the bulk of their money was spent on Bell, it was spent on Mosley, and it was spent on Jamison Crowder. That's where most of it went. The Jets did not fix where they needed to fix. You get him all the weapons in the world. If you can't block, he's not going to be successful, and you've seen Darnold regress this year because of it. I think he's got 5 touchdowns and 8 picks or something like that. For his career, he's got 23 touchdowns, 24 interceptions. He's got a 70 QB rating this year. He's arguably one of the worst quarterbacks in the sport. Daniel Jones is playing better. And the Giants are going to have an opportunity to really support Daniel Jones this offseason in both the draft and in free agency. The New York Jets had an opportunity to take an offensive lineman in last year's draft, early in the draft. They decided to pass on that. Now, I like Quinn Williams, but they did not address the offensive line nearly as much as they should have, and that is something they have to rectify this year. The problem for the Jets, they wasted a second-round pick in that Darnold trade. Well, hopefully they didn't waste it. Hopefully Darnold's good for them, but they used a second-round pick in this upcoming draft in that Darnold trade, so they won't have that. They're going to have a first-round pick, but they're going to be picking near the top of the draft, and they may very well pass on an offensive lineman there. And they've used all their cap space. So the New York Jets have really put Darnold and the franchise in a bad spot with how poorly they handled this offseason with the cap space they were provided. And that is a mistake the New York Giants cannot make this year. They've got a lot of money to spend. Yes, I know that some of it's going to go to Leonard Williams, which, Dave Gettleman always harps on. You got to improve the defensive and offensive lines. And he should help with that. And they're going to use money to bring him back. Make no mistake about it. But most of that money in free agency has to go to upgrading this offensive line or the draft. If you want to use the money on the defense in free agency, I get it. We have a young defense. You could use some proven veterans. But if you do that, you still need to bring in some depth in free agency for the O-line. And then you need to attack the offensive line heavily in this year's upcoming draft. I'm talking 3-4 offensive linemen in this draft and early. So the Giants have to really start to get a good offensive line and a foundation going forward for Daniel Jones. You've got the weapon in Saquon Barkley. You didn't spend $15 million a year on your running back. You drafted him rather than going out there and bringing in a free agent, but you only got 3 years left on that contract. Giants have to make good use of it, and this offseason will be imperative. And they have to learn from the Jets' mistakes, and hopefully they do. I think Gettleman made the right decision in 2018 because he saw they didn't have the foundation. He saw that they wouldn't be able to have the foundation the following offseason because of the cap space. This year, after drafting Daniel Jones, he has the opportunity to improve that line for Jones, and he's going to have to do just that because Barkley with a good offensive line and Jones with a good offensive line have no reason but, they should be successful. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out this offseason, but I thought it would be appropriate to do a video like this, being that the Jets and Giants are playing each other this week, and being that it was a very controversial topic when the Giants decided to take Barkley over Darnold. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.